I just want to encourage believers out there that if you're being attacked on a regular basis and the name of Jesus is working and it's going away, but it keeps coming back, maybe the Lord is allowing this to continue for a season because he's strengthening your arm for war.
Yeah, that's really encouraging because, again, as a Christian, like I've had sleep paralysis before on multiple occasions, not for a while, thank God, because it's the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And mine was never something sitting on my chest, something choking me, nothing like that. I've had what you described where it was basically I got like incepted, a dream within a dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wake up out of the second one because I still think, because then I thought I woke up. And then at a certain point, I'm just like, hold on. Am I still asleep? You know, it's the wildest thing.
I've never experienced
it's
that.
So wild. And I don't know how it is for you, but I'll be completely lucid. Like, I'll just be myself in my dream and I'll wake up. And I'll be in bed and I'll be like, man, that was a crazy dream. And I'll just start going about my day, you know? And then at a certain point, something's off, like the door's missing or something in the room. And I'm like, what the heck? Where's the door? And then I'll be like, oh my God, I'm still dreaming. You know, I've had that multiple times. And I've had other ones where even though there wasn't something on my chest or something at the foot of my bed, I did feel like I was in my room. Okay. And my bed was there. My windows are in the right place. My doors are in the right place. But something will happen where I could feel, oh man, I could remember the last one. This might've been 2 years ago. I have a bathroom off to the right of my bed, right? And that door's usually open and dark. So I remember looking and it's extra dark, like light sucking dark, you know? And I'm thinking to myself, because again, totally lucid. I feel like I'm just completely myself. And I look over and I'm like, man, that feels really dark. That feels evil. Like it starts building, you know? And then I start getting scared of the darkness. And I want to turn over to my wife who's next to me, but I can't move. And I'm like, what the heck? Why can't I move? And then I start panicking and like riling myself up. And then I start trying to scream, but nothing comes out, you know? And then it hits me. I'm dreaming and something's going on. So I'll start praying and I'll start singing songs and I'll start calling on the name. Nothing ever appeared in my room, but I definitely felt something evil, you know? Is it normal to wake up out of that and then go back to sleep and for it to keep occurring?
Oh, yes.
It is?
Oh, yes.
Dang it. I had it 3 times in one night.
Yeah.
And then I was scared to go back to bed.
I know.
Why would you go back to bed?
It's wild.
If you're kind of half waking up, you know, you're fading in and out of, like the technical fancy terms are the hypnopompic and the hypnagogic. They're the little tiny windows of where you're in an altered state just as you're waking up or just as you're falling asleep. And they're very opportune windows for these things to contact you and attach. And so the best thing you can do that I never had the ability to do as a little girl because I was terrified. I'd lay in bed and I'm just like, I'm going to pretend I'm asleep until I wake up. You know, I was never the kid that could jump out of bed and run down the hall and go, Mom, Mom, because I was terrified and I never wanted to open my eyes because I was afraid something would manifest and I didn't want to see anything. I didn't want it to get any scarier than it already was. So I would just lay there with my eyes closed. Jesus, help me, you know. But the best thing you can do is jump out of bed and flip on the lights and reorient yourself, get yourself wide awake. But even then, and let me give you another little tip though. Sure. This is how legalistic these things are. And I had a friend of mine tell me this. She had a very, very terrifying sleep paralysis type night terror one night. And so she started praying very specific prayers before she went to bed, and she was being protected. And after some time, she had one of these nightmares, And she didn't understand why, because she had prayed before she went to bed and it had been so effective for so long. And so she was praying about it. And she realized that night she had gone to bed, fallen asleep, slept for several hours, woke up and had to use the restroom. So she got up and she used the restroom and went back to bed. And she realized these entities are so legalistic that if you pray and basically say, like, Jesus, guard me while I sleep tonight, but you wake up and you go,
funny.
They see it as a second sleep cycle, and you didn't pray over that one.
Interesting.
So it was interesting. I put it to the test. And a lot of times these sleep paralysis episodes happen after you've woke up and you've fallen back asleep again. And it's almost like the way that they kind of wiggle their way out of your prayers, which is why so many people say, I've done everything, I pray, and it still doesn't work. Let me tell you something crazy, you guys. I got to the point where I was so sick of trying to find the exact little legalese prayer that worked that I decided to cover my bases. And for 3 days in a row last fall, because I was having a lot of astral stuff going on in my sleep, and I was praying and I said, Father, do not let anything communicate with me or touch me for the next 15 hours. Because I knew I wasn't going to sleep that long, right? And so whether I'm awake or asleep, or I'm in an altered state, or hypnopompic, hypnagogic, like no matter what's going on, give me a 15-hour Faraday cage and don't let these things touch me. I kid you not. For 3 days in a row, it was like I was drugged, and I slept 14 and a half hours, and the Lord woke me up before my little window ran out. And I don't typically sleep that long, you guys. But I'm glad I did that. Yeah, I know, right? Doesn't it?
I wrote that prayer down, just so you know.
I know, right? But why I'm glad it happened is it proved to me these things are so legalistic. And that's why I tell people, please be careful with all of these online prayers that are pages and pages long that list every single thing, every technology, every frequency, every bad guy, because once you start playing that game with the demon world, they will enter in the one way you didn't mention. And so I try to keep things very vague so that I'm not giving them a lot of leeway, because if they can find a loophole, they will. I'll give you a little example. After my mom passed away, familiar spirits dressed up like my mom were coming into my dream every night.
Wow.
And it was exhausting because I'd see her and I would feel all this joy, and then I would realize, well, wait, it's not her. And then it would always go bad too. Like her eyes would roll back into her head, or she would be mean or something. And so, like, obviously they were tormenting me. So I started praying, God, please don't let me have a dream that involves my mom tonight. When I started praying that, I wouldn't dream about my mom. But then a woman from my church that I'd had a falling out with, who was very cruel to me, she would start showing up in my dream instead. So then I started praying, God, please don't let me have a dream about my mom or this woman. And then after I started praying that, another person who had deeply hurt me in my youth, that person would show up. And I realized I don't have time to pray and try to remember every single person in my life who's ever hurt me or said a mean thing or like whatever. And so I just realized that some of these like ridiculously detailed dreams where I'm going to try to think and put a wall up against every single conceivable door where they can get me, that tends to get you into more trouble. And what I tend to tell people is, if you go to bed at night and the last thing you do is pray a prayer where you're ruminating on all the terrible things that might happen to you before you fall asleep.
Oh yeah.
You're sort of setting yourself up.
Yeah, you're setting yourself up.
So the better thing to do is, rather than ruminating on all the things you don't want to have happen to you when you fall asleep, you spend the hours before you go to bed ruminating on what you do want, which is the presence of Jesus Christ. And
Yeah.
so instead of gaming and watching a bunch of stuff on Netflix and, blue screening yourself to death.
Hey, look at these. Like blocking
Exactly. What we do is we focus on what we want to be involved in at night. And
totally.
we practice the presence of Jesus Christ. We worship, we pray, and we go to bed with our eyes fixed on him. And that is really a greater protection than a bunch of written down prayers that take us hours to pray. And then we go to bed with our mind filled with the hundreds of different things that could potentially happen to us. And it's just not a good way to prepare ourselves for sleep.
Yeah. And I'll vouch for this thing, for the idea that maybe God lets it happen for growth or preparation or something like that, right? For Christians. Because I mean, just in the past, I want to say in the past maybe year, as a result of those experiences that I had, I go to sleep now every single night praying, like in my head. After me and my wife pray and we're laying in bed, I'll just keep praying. And I'll keep praying and I'll keep praying and then I'll fall asleep.
Yeah, I do.
And then I'll wake up, no sleep paralysis, But that's now a practice that like has come out of this, because that was not the case before. Before I would lay down after praying with my wife, lay down, close my eyes, and my mind would just keep spinning and spinning and spinning and thinking and thinking and thinking. And I feel like I sleep so much. First off, I fall asleep faster and sleep better, which is actually really interesting to think about. It just hit me right now that that's probably connected.